Subtitling ZDF January 26, 2026. It's the fourth year, day 337 since the full-scale invasion began. Welcome. For the Daily Situation Report, in today's report, we once again see grotesque videos. We also see good statements from the Russian Zep blogger Fighter Bomber, who talks about why so many Russian bombs are raining down on Russian cities, especially in the Belgorod region. We'll also cover the current situation in Ukrainian cities suffering from the war and more. But first, some of you probably know Ruben Mavic, a German medic who is currently in Ukraine. The nonprofit organization Save Ukraine would like to help him with a new ambulance. They asked if I could briefly promote the campaign on my channel, which is no problem for me. If you want to support this, you can do so via the first PayPal link in the video description or via the provided international bank account number. You can find both at the very top of the video description. But I have one request. Please make sure to enter ambulance and war and tactic as the purpose of payment. So basically, ambulance and war and tactic. That way, we can identify where the money should go or which donation it belongs to. And most importantly, from which amazing community it comes. Thank you very much for that. The situation in Kyiv remains very difficult. Around 800,000 people recently had no electricity in their homes. Those with electricity often have it for only a few hours daily, and without it, heating and water usually also fail. The densely populated district of Nyansky is particularly affected. Sorry for the probably incorrect pronunciation, there is currently no heating there at all. Many residents had under 30 minutes of electricity in the last 2 days. Large tents were set up for people to warm up and get hot food. For many elderly people, leaving their apartments is nearly impossible, especially when power outages disable elevators. Social services try to provide them with a hot meal at least once a day. The Ukrainian winter is long and harsh, and at the same time, Russia is already planning new attacks on the energy infrastructure, not only in the Moscow area, which we will come back to later. When we look at the Russian city of Belgorod on the border, we always have one thing in mind: friendly fire from Russian aircraft. The well-known Russian Z-blogger Fighter Bomber is an unofficial but well-connected channel for the Russian Air Force, and who often has detailed and extremely accurate expertise commented on the situation in Belgorod, since such incidents have been recurring. His statements are always quite remarkable to me because they come from the inner circle of Russian military aviation and are hardly sugar-coated. He tackles problems directly rather than hiding them, which is why I value him as a reliable pro-Russian source. Fighter Bomber writes openly that the Russian army continues to regularly lose glide bombs over its own districts of the city of Belgorod and the surrounding area. The population is supposed to have, in quotation marks, understanding for this and basically hope for the best. But for him, this is not an unusual or outrageous situation now. That's probably due to habit. He explains that these incidents will only end when either the front line is more than 200 kilometers away from Belgorod or the war is over. The reason: the glide bombs used are technical systems that inevitably make mistakes sometimes, since these bombs are deployed on a straight flight path. They lack their own propulsion and can barely evade, so they often approach Ukrainian targets directly over the city. If something goes wrong, then the bomb just drops right there. He cites a poorly planned flight path as a possible cause. Time pressure, poor maintenance, production errors, or foldable wing failures are critical factors. He admits that the strong focus on mass production of the UMPK kits comes at the expense of quality. UMPK kits are these glide bomb kits that basically turn an old Soviet freefall bomb into a glide bomb. He says most bombs don't detonate because safety systems trigger during malfunctions, so they don't explode on the ground, but the impact still occurs. This is solely due to material and system failures and not because of the pilot's intention to hit their own targets. He also sums up very matter-of-factly what could be done about it. And that is nothing except hoping that it turns out well. I found that pretty funny. Others might have said you could change flight routes to avoid dropping bombs over your own population and ensure they don't fly over your cities. Or you could simply improve the quality of the glide bomb kits. take better care of them, or something similar. But that's probably not possible anymore if you accept hoping that nothing goes wrong as the only option that currently seems logical. The only territorial gain of the day is here at Orycho-Vasilyevka. Here, the Russians captured the fields north of the settlement. Apart from this section, the front overall appears somewhat calmer. In many areas, movements are limited to just a few meters per day, sometimes without any visible changes to the lines. Larger advances or dynamic operations are hardly observable at the moment. There are many indications that both sides are conserving their forces and waiting for better conditions. So basically, they're waiting for the onset of spring. Whether the situation will change significantly after winter remains to be seen. So let's just take a look at what's happening in the other sectors right now. A single Russian soldier is moving alone across an open snow-covered field. As so often happens, he is spotted by a drone and then engaged. We've seen this image repeatedly for years, inevitably raising questions. In wars like this, moving in large groups is very dangerous, as they're easily spotted and attacked. Still, it's striking how often individual soldiers move across open terrain during the day without cover and without any visible security. What is your objective? Where are you going? And why are you always alone? Most of the time, these questions can't be answered anymore because for these soldiers, the war often ends early. A plausible explanation would be that these are soldiers who, after failed attacks, are trying to return to their original positions on their own. In a highly fragmented battlefield with destroyed leadership and poor communication, that's quite realistic, and that's what we're seeing here as well. However, that doesn't explain every one of these videos. In my research, I see at least 50 such videos, and that's day after day. The frequency of such scenes probably points more to a structural problem, meaning a lack of coordination, missing leadership, disorientation with a high probability, or simply just chaos. Understood. Another thought of mine would be desertion, but that often doesn't fit. Someone who wants to desert would probably try to draw attention to themselves, or at least not actively resist a drone. We often see soldiers still attempt to shoot at drones or flee. Overall, this shows an army where soldiers are often left isolated in combat zones and die there. It may seem that way because, unlike past wars, we now have drones with cameras documenting everything. It's the same with this soldier here. At least he camouflaged himself and tried not to stand out. But here too, the same questions arise. Why is he alone? What was he trying to achieve? Where was he going? And why is he doing this? In broad daylight? Somehow, he reminds me of a penguin. It's not only cold in Kyiv, a similar fate awaits here as well. Naftogaz reports Russia has been attacking Kherson's heating plant for hours with artillery and drones. The attacks target the city's energy supply to disrupt electricity and heating. To mitigate the impact on the population, they announced that this week they would deliver an additional 950 gas heaters, along with gas cylinders, to Kherson. These are intended to help people who currently have to manage without a functioning heating system. The situation remains tense, especially for civilians who are once again affected by heating and power outages in the middle of winter. If we take a look at the map, it will be a smooth -9 degrees today, which could mean another cold night without the necessary precautions. Thanks to all subscribers, members, and the Algo crew, especially Lieutenant Colonel Renneke, Robert Ziller, Dietrich Freddy, and Meyerhofer. Subscribe, like, comment, and see you next Situation Report.